It's Tuesday, April 1st, 4:05. We'll start the meeting for the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee. As I mentioned, it's a number of people are leaving the committee, and so I thought we could have a little bit of a snack today. You're welcome to sit up here, Tim.
Back here.
You're going to sit back there?
Back here.
You're going to sit back there with Peter? Okay.
Solidarity.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So everyone's here then.
I think so.
Wow.
Not Mark. Mark's still on the committee, isn't
See, I don't have him on my list.
No, he's not going to be here.
he? Maybe not.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And today, Deirdre's taking notes, and she's all ready. I'm trying to kill time, trying to get my pen out. So, I think we'll start. First of all, we have a guest here today, Meg Rasmussen. I'm pronouncing that right. From, why don't you tell us a little bit? But I'm going to have to give you a. You mind jogging up here and just talking into that?
No.
Great.
Should I sit?
Sure, sit.
Can you hear me?
Why not?
So, I'm Meg Rasmussen. I'm the Director of Sustainability Programs at the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. And, I'm here at, well, first of all, is everybody familiar with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments? I'm nodding heads. Okay, I don't have to do my overview. So through the Community Resilience Partnership, which you guys are a member of, we have kind of additional time to provide some hands-on help to committees working on their resilience projects. So, I'm kind of here to kind of get the flavor of your committee, hear what you're working on, what your priorities are, and then just kind of, as you're having your meeting, think about how, I might plug in to provide some services like, we can do research, we can do grant writing, we can help facilitate meetings, public meetings, provide some mapping. So I just wanted to get a sense of what you guys are working on so that I could, if you need some help or want some help, I'd be happy to give it to you.
That's great. Thank you. And why don't we go around and introduce ourselves to Meg? Howie, you want to start?
I'm Howie Marshall. I'm chair of the town's Energy and Technology Committee and sit on this committee also.
I'm Ken Emick. I'm co-chair of the Harpswell Town Lands Committee and on this committee as well.
And I'm Nancy West. I'm on the Conservation Commission in this.
Lois Bryce, I'm also on the Harbor Waterfront Committee.
And I'm Mary Ann Nave on the Conservation Commission and chair of this committee.
Deirdre Strachan, Conservation Committee.
And Jay McCray, also sort of representing Harpswell Aging at Home here and involved with Maine Council of Governments.
Yeah. Tim? And Peter, I know you're on your way out, but,
Really worried.
And you were, I think, came on the committee sort of as a member at large of the community, as I recall. Yeah. And Abby? Yeah. She's all over.
Can we ask a question?
Oh, you're kidding? Oh, no.
Not good enough.
Hey, I've been following you for 2 years. Let me interview you.
Well, you said you're going to be looking, but it's kind of big. Oh, so really not that far.
It's great, Abby sat on our committee, well, has been coming to our meetings for a long time, and then she started a Resiliency Committee in Brunswick, because that's where she's living. Or you joined that committee that was there. Good. So, everybody's had a chance to take a look at the minutes of the February meeting. There's no questions, I'll take a motion to approve.
March meeting?
February.
Oh, wait, there was one.
What?
February meeting, I think. I mean,
It says March.
Did I say February? I'm sorry, I meant March.
March, all right.
But there was something, because we showed you here, didn't
And
we?
not here, like Schrodinger's cat.
But we also,
Not here.
we show you here and not here.
That's Howie.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve with the correction?
Move.
Okay, second. All in favor? All right. Great. Well, I just have an announcement here is thank you, but we have people who are leaving today. This is their last meeting. Mose is moving on. Billy Saxton is going to be coming on the committee, fill your spot on Harbor and Waterfront. And Peter's just deciding to leave town.
Rat him out.
And you've been really so helpful to us, Peter, especially on the communications end. We're really going to miss you. And your thoughtful discussions as well. So,
And Moses thoughtful.
yes, yes. And Ken, I see that you re-upped.
I did?
Tina told me she got your
I didn't know I was up. I re-upped it for town lands. Maybe she had it mixed up, which.
I bet you she did, but she told me that
Looks
you,
like I'm stuck either way.
but you'll have to make out another application if you haven't for this, unfortunately, for this committee.
Okay, I didn't know. Was my term up?
Well, I asked Tina whose terms were up on this committee, and she mentions your name and mine,
News to you, huh?
so,
No, she sent me one for town lands, but.
okay.
Okay, I'll
Well,
re-up.
you could do that. Basically, the selectmen will probably do all the new committee people at probably the next meeting, and they'll come on, they'll be coming on our first meeting in May.
I wanted to circle back and thank Mose for his oratorial splendor at town meeting about Spira and on our TV program where Peter was director. Several of us had speaking parts, and
TJ.
especially at town meeting. I'm so glad you went before me.
Right. And just to do a little circle back to let you know, Meg, basically this committee, the way it's made up, started out when we were a task force with the vulnerability assessment. And then when we came into a committee, we laid it out to follow the same format so that we could have members of every town committee be the members, and then with a couple of large members. And it's worked out really well, I think, for us. And, of course, we became members of GOPIF. Right. Yeah, I always forget the name. There's just too many. And we've been very fortunate to have some projects to get engineering assessments done on 4 of our most vulnerable roads and 2 town landings. We've been very fortunate in that respect. And right now, we have an open grant being looked at to do a modeling study using the new FEMA floodplain maps to model it to the topography that we have in Harpswell, which makes it a little trickier than the normal. that would be looking at the future rather than looking at historical data. We haven't heard, we don't know yet whether we'll be successful on that or not. But I don't know if, Meg, if it was you, but Christy mentioned she got notification from someone yesterday saying that it would probably be middle to the end of April. Was it from you? I don't remember. It was from Ashley Cooley, right. Yeah. So, yeah. We also have mentioned, I've reached out, Mark Luchtenberger, he is always traveling the first Tuesday of the month. So he's been an associate member this year, but he is just not going to reapply because we really like to have people at the meetings for the most time. And he wasn't able to make more than 1 or 2 this year. I have to talk to someone on the Marine Resources Committee, Brittany Tuck, who was very interested, and I'm not sure if she's going to apply or not, but I told her to read some of our stuff and that she could apply and then fill that role. Also reached out, we now have a housing committee, and I've reached out to them to see if I could go talk to them next week to see if they'll because they're not just really representing the committee, they're becoming a member, so there's the commitment to be a regular member as well. And then on planning board, when Al LeGros stepped down, that has been open. Talked to Dan Obeck, who is on the planning board, is also interested in the committee itself. Also was part of the library committee, or library, the Orrs Island Library, very good photographer. So he brings, I think, a lot of additional talent that can be helpful. And so we got housing, and then there's one more. I'm not sure what's going to happen. The aquaculture working group, I thought was going to become a committee, but I haven't seen it.
Billy suggested at our last, that there may be merger of harbor water, agriculture, and marine.
Oh, really? Okay,
Whether it would be constituted with everybody's on the 3 committees now or some of them.
okay.
But it does make some sense, especially after the agriculture work group did all their work on the
Right.
water classifications, which we were talking about
Right.
on harbor waterfront. Marine resources fits into all of that. So
They do.
I think that if that gets consolidated, and if it's now just supposition, I think it's
Yeah, it would be.
That fits with what I had heard about it becoming a working waterfront committee, but I didn't know about the others joining,
But
which makes,
I don't know where Billy got his information. He just suggested that might be what's going to happen.
yeah,
I think what happened is Paul said he wasn't in a position to handle 3 committees,
Yeah.
who is the harbor master. So I think they're trying to come up with a way to,
Matt James,
pardon me?
the Matt James, if we aren't careful,
Right.
yeah, we don't want that.
So,
Paul's job has changed.
yeah.
It sounds like there'll be another assistant harbor master based on Tony
Supposedly,
proposed.
It was funded
was-
at
yes,
town
it
meeting.
has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Town meeting too.
So,
To reduction.
That's right.
well, good. So,
Oh, Mary Ann, do we know who our select board person
yeah,
is?
Kevin is going to be our,
Okay,
both, he's going to take both Conservation Commission and this committee.
thank you.
Okay. So at the next meeting, we'll welcome new members, and then probably at that time, it'll be a good chance to go over our sustainability plan again and what we're working on and what we have focus on. But right now in process, I really just brought up the things we've been talking about for the last 2 months. And how I know you've had some meetings with the consultant, and how did that go?
The potential consultant.
consultant, I'm sorry, yes.
Don't get me in trouble with Christie. who
No,
already
no,
thinks-
I won't do that.
I've moved too fast on this, but I explained we didn't promise anything. But we met with somebody who has been in the renewable energy business for more than 40 years and got in touch with Dave Chipman and said, how can I get the town to be more green? And so we met with him. He does have a lot of experience. He has experience with the sorts of things that we're looking at. And there is another guy that I had talked to previously that I'm going to get in touch with and see if he's still interested. Have him come talk to the committee if he's still interested, and otherwise, or in either case, put out an RFP. And, you know, the primary thing is to talk about how we can use more renewable energy, possibly getting ourselves out of the solar farm, something of a mess, because there's a lot of finger pointing between the solar farm and CMP while our credits expire because they won't put them against the right meter. And each of them blames the other for piling them on the meter that doesn't need them, and then they expire. So, you know, another possibility would be to pursue doing our own. So, you know, and one of the things that we talked about is if the new emergency services facility gets built here, that would probably provide space for enough solar panels to provide all the electricity that the town uses.
Wow.
Up on the roof?
Or even in
Or in the
like
field, okay.
covering the parking area. That's a little more expensive than putting it on a roof, but it means you've got covered parking, which can be nice too.
Yeah,
There's also the recycling center roof, which when it was redone or is in the process of being redone, I don't know where that stands. But that the strength to support solar panels across the whole thing was part of that plan. So, you know, what I want is somebody who can look at all these possibilities and say, that's not going to work, that's a good idea, let's see what we can learn about this, because I need somebody who's been in this business and not just,
sure. Good,
my experience is I have solar panels on my roof, but that's, you know, doesn't make me an expert.
right, right.
And can you leave the community solar?
Yes, you have to give a year's notice, and it'll take us a year to do anything anyway. So, I mean, when they put that in there, it was like, yeah, we wouldn't be able to do anything else in less than a year. So once we decide to do something, we just give them notice.
Give them notice. Is there anything that you would be looking to the committee for or from help from?
So
As you
the
go forward.
only thing is just, you know, we asked for funding for a consultant to advise us, and instead of putting it on the budget, it was pushed off to the Spira Fund.
Right,
And I think this committee voted on that. I think
yeah, we
one of the
voted
things
on it.
that I
We
missed.
Yeah, no, we voted on it, it was $12,000, as I recall.
Right.
Yeah,
And so that, I think that still needs to be approved by the select board, but I figured we'd get more information about what the consultants are able to provide us, and then take that to them.
yeah, that would be good. So something could come up that we might even have to apply for more money for something. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. But,
Oh, Margaret. Margaret is our town planner. Meg Rasmussen from, okay. Yeah. Good. But I'm hearing some stuff that if, going forward, if once we get plans, we may have an avenue to look for funding, depending. Yeah.
sorry? Okay. Okay.
Is there anything specific you would like from Howie that he could furnish you now? Yeah, yeah, good. Great.
Meg, are you going to be the point of contact for Harpswell? So you're here specifically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Community resource information. This committee, which was not subcommittee, this was a little working group, happy little working group, was working on one of the points in our sustainability plan was to have more outreach to the community in general. And we also, I'm going to let Nancy and Jay kind of fill in, and Peter, if he wants, what we've done and what we still have to do yet.
We might need Abby, too.
That's right, Abby was in on that, too. Sorry about that.
Well, the last time we met, we talked about various possible written resources that could go out to people. We had a couple models. And Abby, you can update maybe the possibility of the grant that you've been part of could possibly supply for some printing of something. Is that a possibility or not? No.
We did.
Okay. Okay.
So, and just to maybe just go backtrack and circle around a little bit, this, we are trying to engage main people on sustainability as far as electrical sustainability is one of our focuses. And then part of the social vulnerability area, we got involved with emergency services because of the storms and everything. I think we did a really good job of focusing in on that, and we had a lot of information to hand out at town meeting. And that's still an area that we're going to probably refine, I assume, and have available for everybody. And then we just have to keep working on the other piece of a little more vigor, I think.
Yeah, I think we all had in mind town meeting was something that we needed to be prepared for. And then we had town meeting, but we didn't have town meeting. And then we had town meeting because of the gym, there were too many people came to the town meeting, and so they postponed for 2 weeks. Too many people for the capacity of the room, not too many people for participating in democracy. And we had, I thought I would make that. It was actually pretty exhilarating to be in that crowd. And we haven't met since then, so I think we need to meet to regroup. But we did produce materials for that, and we had them on the table. And Abby was there with her sustainability cafe materials and also an emergency preparedness kit. The whole emergency preparedness kit came up because of the terrible storms, particularly in western North Carolina in the fall. We realized we had short-term issues to make sure that people had what they needed to be able to function for several days, either at home or away. And then Marianne keeps reemphasizing that our long-term goal is long-term sustainability. So I think I'm guessing that we'll wrap up the short-term preparedness for emergencies and turn now into sustainability. But we need to meet again and regroup.
Yeah.
Well, part of the dilemma for the short term is there's a lot of information out there. And I don't know if I can quote you, Peter, but it's something about if there's 7 pieces of information and we combine and make an 8, then there are 8 pieces. So let's figure out a good, distinct, clear model.
Right.
And Nancy put together,
2-page,
Yeah.
2 sides.
yeah,
1 for the short-term emergency preparedness, 2 for how to reduce your energy use.
yeah. So building on that and maybe making it even prettier.
Definitely making it pretty.
Yeah. And then we want to make it available in multiple ways, website, events, outs, post.
Refrigerator magnets, some way, so that people know where they have it if a weather report comes to tell us that we're going to have another 2 storms like we did in January of last year.
And getting the mass notification,
Yeah.
getting that information out so people get emergency, all of that. But doing it in a way that is useful and not overwhelming and can be accessed in a variety of ways because not everybody is going to find it in this.
No. The answer is no, and that would be a huge help. Thank you for asking the question.
What
Because I
we've
think
done
there's
is, we've done it on
implication in
PowerPoint,
what you
Joe.
just asked.
We've done it on PowerPoint,
Okay, but graphics design would be great.
yeah.
A little prettier.
Thank you.
I'm not a
Yep.
Well, even once we figure out the various vectors for getting this out, it might be great to have a conversation with you to see whether or not those make sense. Okay.
And know how to use it.
I don't think it's very hard.
It's not hard, it's easy. Right. It's, yeah. It's similar to PowerPoint, actually. You can kind of use it the same way, you know. Yeah. I think Abby used it for her, and then I took that and copied that to use for our poster, which was just was just showing all the areas that we were talking about, as I recall. Can't remember what was on it, but
And I don't know if this is a piece of this or not, but the idea of collecting road association names was something that was being done at the
that was
same
part
time.
of that as well, yes.
And it's a way we're thinking about getting the word out.
Yeah,
Another means forum.
right, just for background, we've been very, very proactive on checking out the town roads, but the town roads are only a third of all the roads in town, because 2/3 are private. So we sort of, between the Conservation Commission and this committee, we're trying to figure out how to have information available to road associations and so they can become more sustainable and how to be thinking about the future. The problem is it's really, really difficult to find out who's on a road association and where they are because there's no master list. So we've tried we've had a place to sign up as we're talking to people to give us information so that we could get in touch with somebody on a road association when we move forward with this project. So,
And that's in both timeframes. One would be, how can the road associations prepare their roads if they need to in advance of flooding? And secondly, as Peter coined or borrowed the phrase, neighbors as lifelines. So in the case of an emergency, can a neighborhood look out for a group of people on the road? Or on an adjacent road, say in the case of Dingley Island?
good. Okay. We have anything else we had on that?
No, I don't think so.
I'll send out an email to the usual suspects. Just try to set up a meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Immediately, and that's.
Yeah, when we've talked about warming centers, we often remember to say cooling centers. And we haven't, like Orr's Island Library is 24/7 during a winter storm, but are they in a heat event? I don't know. So we need to find out what there is around in locally Brunswick, if you can get there.
Good.
I heard India's going to have their hottest summer coming up. They hit over 50 degrees Celsius last summer.
Wow. Oh, God.
What is that like in Fahrenheit? I mean, 21 is hot.
130.
Yeah.
Halfway to boiling.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds delightful.
Last summer, we
Yeah.
got
Right.
this wildfire. So, and that's basically, that is something, summer risk factor. Significant.
Right.
There, there was a wildfire probably 6 or 7 years ago on Sheep Island, which is north and east of Hundy's Harbor, and the cottages were saved. There had been a blowdown, and so the trees were like pickup sticks, and the fire took place there. They got everybody and pets and off the island, and the houses were saved. But
Right up the cove here.
that's
this
right,
past
on
summer, I
Dowdy
mean,
Point.
yeah,
Yep.
So
that
it should,
surprised everybody.
yep, it should be something we think about, and is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Incredible.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
It's your to-go kit with your insurance policy, your insurance information, your identification, your wallet, your phone, your marriage license, your birth certificates.
Especially if you want to vote. Sorry. So what is frightening is, our older adults without transportation. Something like that happens. Whether it's cold, hot, fire, they're trees down. Yeah.
You know, it's that same thing, right? It's the same principles we talked about earlier.
Well, the time frame could be even shorter with wildfires. At least people can head to the coast, can head to the shore. It is close to all of us.
Now, is this something that the fire department does in town and talks about this?
I don't know. I'm thinking
Because I
about
would
Mike doing-
think that might be something that we would coordinate with them. You're whispering.
A question for Margaret, sort of a tangent, but fire-related. New houses need sprinklers at this point if they're more than one story? So nothing retroactive, but new. And if they're two-story?
Was that a distance thing or?
Yeah, it just. It has.
Right.
Have those. All the property. John Lynn.
Oh, really? I didn't realize they did, yeah.
Doesn't help with a wildfire, but it made me think.
Good. Good
Another
addition.
thing to worry about.
Right. Okay, the next item is the mitigation investment policy that we had a small group working on. And we sort of divided it into two pieces. We started to talk about the mitigation policy itself that we are been asked to be put together by the Budget Advisory Committee for the town to start looking at how to plan to pay for some of these big expenses that are coming up. We started on that. We then, Deirdre brought to our attention that there was a grant that might be something of interest for us. And that turned out to be, and I'm going to let Ken, or Deirdre's busy typing unless you want to talk to, tell us a
Why
little.
don't we let Ken do it while I'm taking his
Talk about
notes
that.
on what he's saying?
And then we'll circle back around to figure out how we're going to do with this planning update.
So this was a Deirdre grant. You found this grant. It's up to what 150,000 possibly that we could apply for related to climate change mitigation. And one of the things that I think it was Gorilla Palmer, the town's engineering firm, had suggested was possibly for roads that have occasional flooding, Abner Point Road, for example, put up temporary, I think they call it flood barriers. And the one we were looked at most promising is called a box wall. It's actually a Swedish company, but they seem to be used around the world. They almost look like plastic Jersey barriers, for
Right.
lack of a better term, and they hook together and can form a temporary barrier, and it can be on like both sides of the road, such you'd have at Abner Point where you could have flooding coming from both directions. They do recommend that you'd also have some sort of sump pump because there would always be some leaking underneath it. But so that we were looking at these for the grant could be a possibility. You had something like this, it could at minimum at least delay the time that we need, push years out before we'd actually have to raise a road if you could have some sort of mitigation for the once or twice a year flooding that comes up. So this seemed like a good candidate for the the grant.
Is it something that the town itself would install?
It would be done with volunteers, yep. And each section is, I think, 34 pounds. So the idea is that two people could, put them up pretty quickly. I mean, I contacted the company. Ironically, it was the founder that responded to my email. Cool. And he said, two people, it's really made for 1 or 2 people. If you want to speed it up, you could have like another one, driving a vehicle, delivering them to where they're being staged.
So they'd have to be stored centrally someplace and then taken out to the vulnerable areas?
Right, and that was the storage was one of the things we looked at. As a very rough guidelines, it's a little, think of it, is you need a little more than 1 square foot of storage for every linear feet of this flood barrier you're looking at. That would be, you had not trivial amount. Theoretically, they could be stacked one high with forklift, but the only viable place might be for there would be the transfer station where you have a forklift.
So is this like the system that they showed when the engineer presented?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it made sense, maybe, there, because raising the road really wasn't very viable at Abner Point, so, but there are issues like storage and who would do it. And
Yeah, and then I did reach
Looked
out.
interesting.
Yeah, I did reach out to Mike Drake, who was the fire administrator. I Thank you,
I
Pam.
mean, we did get feedback, though, about them, and that potentially they require level surfaces.
Right, yeah.
And most of our surfaces where would put them are not level.
Yeah.
So that's one issue. And the other issue is that since our roads are very narrow, by the time you put up these things, emergency vehicle couldn't necessarily get through, let alone cars to get into, where people lived. So that's something the engineers didn't talk about in the report.
I thought they had addressed that. I thought that they said that you would be able to have one lane of traffic if those were in place.
I think,
But you've got water
They
both
felt
sides.
that even that wasn't true in some places, that once you put up the barriers, you wouldn't have enough room for one emergency vehicle to get through.
and a lot of it, I
Time to evacuate.
got the impression
Same time.
was because our roads on the edges are so chewed up. I think the feeling was by the time he could bring it in to where it's solid enough.
Where it's clean, you need a clean, more or less clean
Yeah,
surface,
yeah,
really. for
But I
it to
don't
seal.
know why the engineers wouldn't have figured this out. So why are they suggesting something that doesn't seem viable?
That's why you always have people feet on the ground to double check.
We spend a lot of money on them.
So anyhow, that just came through this week, and what we thought could be something really good mitigation piece to have in place. We were talking about the new fire station. If it gets passed and built, they would have the storage for it. But it would be something that needs much more discussion.
Well, given that you, Ken, have talked with the founder, and there are concerns about whether or not it really is viable, could that same grant be used for something like, I don't even know what you call them, a high vehicle or an amphibious vehicle or something like that?
You're talking more than the amount of this grant for that, I would think.
You think to get people out?
Yeah, to get people out, exactly.
This sounds like more like a conversation to have with the fire department together. And they would probably have better ideas, because that was brought up at one of the meetings, that the fire department has a certain clearance.
High clearance vehicle, that's the term I was looking
Yeah, and they can go up.
for. But do they have one? They do have one, don't they?
I'm not, the fire engines they have, Howie, I don't know if you know or not, are
Higher,
higher. Yeah.
But we do need to explore, I mean, the purpose isn't to let emergency vehicles in. The purpose is to let residents in and out
Yeah.
when the road is flooded.
Exactly.
And the alternative is to spend a huge amount of millions of dollars to fix the road. So we said, well, the town doesn't have, the amount of money that would be required to fix these roads at this point. So let's look at the alternative of box culverts, boxes to prevent.
Foxwall is brand, or.
It's a temporary solution to a long-term problem that we have in the town. But the more, we need to look into it further.
Right,
But
right.
it doesn't seem like so far it's a good solution.
Right.
From what we looked at so far.
But there might be others that are similar that would be more temporary.
And there may be other types of, boxes that we haven't seen about that are more flexible.
Box culvert?
That what?
Box culvert?
No, the,
Box.
these temporary
Sorry,
barriers.
it was the
Flood barriers, that's sort of
flood
generic term.
barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in Abner Point, what the model they did of raising the road was, it wasn't really possible. You'd put the houses there behind a mountain.
Yes. Well, there are a lot of challenges with
Yeah.
So,
repairing the roads as well.
not just money, but,
Yeah.
Money is the major obstacle,
if-
but there also were logistical
Oh, you think it was
issues.
too hard for the people to get out of their driveway if it was raised
Yeah.
up?
Well, that was part of the issue on Abner Point Road.
yeah.
And I thought, didn't Mike say that Abner Point Road might be a possibility for Foxwell? I think he thought
Yes.
that would be the one that would most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah.
And there may be some of the roads that are more feasible.
A little
than others.
cleaner.
We need a little more time to figure it out.
Figure it out.
The engineering design had those flood barriers in as a possibility, but they were also revising the culvert so that water could only flow one direction.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
more comprehensive design or potential design.
But when we start talking culvert, we start talking big bucks. So
Yeah.
we were looking at this as the more viable in terms of funding.
I mean, with the 5 roads that were done, we're looking at probably $10 million
Yeah,
to do all of them.
we're talking serious money.
And I didn't think my personal opinion is that none of the solutions seemed viable for the Dingley Island Road
That's what you had mentioned.
because of permitting issues. If they were to build the road up, I'm guessing that it would be very difficult to get permitting, and the engineer implied that as well,
Yeah.
I believe. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but
But Dingley might be more feasible with those barriers on the lower, as you go up over the bridge, to keep it from, the water from coming in.
they have to extend a long way. I mean, I saw the water
No,
come
they
in
would-
2 different directions from 2 different places.
Yes, but,
It would have to be on both sides, and it's a
Yes.
narrow bridge.
yes.
And I think a lot of these things we're just talking about, at some point, we're going to have to start talking about receding. Retreating, excuse me. And each one of the roads has a different situation. Dingley Island Road has 1 or 2 people that are there year-round.
Oh, they're more than that, but still,
Yeah,
there are probably, guessing, 10 to a dozen households there.
yeah.
But they're also, I mean, I say that because my neighborhood is adjacent to Dingley Island. In an informal conversation recently, after the engineer made the presentation, people said, well, they can come stay with us. So in the neighbors as lifelines, in that particular case, I mean, 4 different people in this very casual conversation said, I've got space, they're welcome to come stay with us. So it could be that evacuation using neighborhood networks would be a stopgap measure or perhaps a permanent measure for people on Dingley Island. But that requires coordination. But we're good at coordinating in Harpswell.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting good thoughts of how, if we're talking about planning, basically, there's going to be more than one way to address each one of these roads. And we're getting a lot of ideas that, at some point could probably be put into a more definite plan.
But we need to get back with the fire department, and maybe we can get the engineer to come talk with us at the same time about
Yeah.
these box culverts and
Right.
see what he suggests. But I don't think we should give up on it yet. It's- Because the alternative is
Million.
outrageous amounts of money.
What's the deadline for this particular?
It's flexible
Flexible. Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
until they use it up. No.
Well, and a question for Meg. This is, every road in Harpswell is different and every town is different, but does any of this resonate with? Yeah, I mean, solution-wise.
That's the first. But and I think that oh.
Right, right. Right.
Yesterday.
Don't have
That
money.
was a
Yeah. What would be helpful for us, I think, would be nice to know what grant opportunities would be out there for Stream Smart type that are applicable to private roads. There are some out there. Maine DOT had some. Basically, if you have a incorporated road association, you can apply to some of those.
But I also think we could use some help finding out about funding for actually repairing, redoing the roads.
Redoing the roads, yeah.
And, we have prioritized the 5 roads that we need to redo ultimately, so
Right.
where can we get $1.5 million to repair one road? Is it
Check.
public? These are town roads that we're talking about now. And I think that's the most important thing. Right, if we can get money to repair the town roads, in the millions, which is what each of the roads is going to be, then that would be the solution, rather than doing this temporary thing with barriers.
Are you thinking after the fact or before problem?
When you say repair the roads,
Sounds like it's.
Repair is the wrong word. Redo the roads so that
Raise the roads.
they will, sorry, that they will be able to sustain, the increase in tides, the increase in
Right,
weather and sea level rise. And we have extensive engineering information about these town roads now. So we know exactly what's needed. All we need now is lots of money. Well, that's just, that could pay for these box things. I can't remember the name.
Is that
It's an
the-
unusual
it
one.
was
is that
just
the
some-
Rural Climate Organization?
Yeah, something like that.
It was just some philanthropist, I think.
Tim, I think you may be out. Go ahead.
I now have the microphone that I was instructed to have before.
You sound like you have so much.
Another thing we talked about was that our original plan was to get these engineering designs of roads, understand which the priorities were, and then be able to say what will it cost to increase them. So recognizing that it's going to take a lot of money to do several of them, one of the other concepts was these roads periodically have to be redone, right? They run the span of time and then they need to be re-engineered. So if we looked at it from a buying time perspective, we're not trying to buy time forever, but if we bought time for these key roads until they would have to be repaired anyway, and then at that time, we would be able to use additional funds, presumably from the state, I guess, to help repair these. Could we come up with then a prioritized plan to say, we would have these mitigation barriers, temporary, that we would apply to these roads as we're buying time to get them to a better place. So it was not just saying we're just buying time and we don't know till when. This would give us a deadline. And also, we're not just hoping that these plastic barriers are going to save us forever, but marrying it into a more comprehensive strategy. And we still have some work to do to try to say, okay, of the priority roads we have, what are the dates that they come up, and putting together a more concrete plan, literally concrete. But it starts to feel a little bit more like a strategy than just a hope and a prayer. Mm-hmm. So that was what we also discussed on the
And I got
call.
I got a listing of the capital roads in town from Terry
good.
that I think as we talked more, come up with a way to prioritize, to give the town a prioritization schedule to think about so that they are ready to put that in place when they're talking about the next major upgrade to a road.
Right. So a detail is that next step is looking at the capital road improvement plan and figuring out a broader plan and then linking it to, more, longer term town planning.
And Tim, I think you were the one who actually brought up that there's some advantage to sort of pushing out the timeline is that there's new technologies may be coming around that might make it somewhat cheaper to do this mitigation, whatever that may be, since we're hardly the only one that's be dealing with this situation.
Yeah, it's the concept that we are by far not alone here with this problem, and particularly all up and down the East Coast of the United States, massive number of roads that are at risk, and some smart soul is going to figure out a way to do this and make a pretty penny doing it that will be less expensive than our engineering solutions now. And I don't know what those are, but the idea of we're not just buying time, but we're buying time in two ways. One, to a capital road improvement period of time, but also so that we don't just get caught between now and then. And the idea is, let's experiment with some of these temporary things and see if they help us. So that was sort of it felt like a bit of a little bit more of a well thought out strategy than what we had so far.
Right.
So yeah, that's what our last bit of brilliance on the committee focused on.
Thank you for that.
But I do think in the near future, we do need some temporary solution because, we've already seen last year that plenty of our roads got severely flooded and prevented people from getting to their homes and prevented emergency vehicles from getting to them. So we already have a problem when we have it's not something in the future.
Good, well, we got more.
Here.
Here. Well, I think we've gotten through the whole agenda.
Might be a record for us.
Yeah, I think it might be.
My suggestion would be to stop wide spacing it like that and then get more in the page.
That's true.
Need spell check?
I could save paper, huh?
That's a third-grade essay, double, triple spacing.
Well, I don't know if people like to write notes on it, but I guess maybe everybody uses their computer now.
This right side, they dingle out.
So,
You can wave over to people who can't.
And then
yeah.
if anyone needs advice for their own property, talk to Ken. You learned a lot about box barriers.
It's very interesting. Like I said, I was really impressed when he responded, when it was like the founder responded to my question.
And at the engineering presentation, somebody's using them, Damascata.
They're using a different product, and I was going to mention it
But
to you,
it's that
Megan.
type.
In
Yes, that type
Damascata,
is-
they're doing over their parking lot, and they're using another company's that the engineer showed us first, but you can't use them on two sides. You can't have water coming from two directions. And it's a yellow
Basically inflatable, somewhat inflatable.
They almost look inflatable, and they unroll and pop up. And they, I understand, are using them or in the middle of doing the construction and planning to use them, which is right in your.
Actually, if you go like YouTube, it's called Boxwall. If you go to YouTube and Boxwall, it's really interesting. There are a lot of interesting videos of them being used.
Yeah.
Mary Ann, grants. We're applying for something around carrying capacity.
Yes, but that's through the Marine Resources Committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Through the Marine Resources Committee, we're applying for a grant. This came about because of the concern by the harvesters with the amount of aquaculture that's coming to town, that there wasn't any way to direct people to better, rather than everybody converging on one spot and doing everything. It's a little bit of what you're doing on the aquaculture committee as well. It would be good to know what the carrying capacity is of a certain area so that you could direct new aquaculturists to look outside of that area. Because they're going to have to do this checking anyhow at some time, but it'd be better for them to have a map that they could look at before they get started and spend money.
Need a baseline, too.
Right. So we applied for a grant through MCOG. Max Johnstone. Okay. We had, what we're doing is, we're going to be testing in 3 different areas because of the amount of area that we cover. Harpswell Sound, Middle Bay, and New Meadows River. And we didn't, the funding, we had to split it in half because it's too expensive. But the first piece that we're applying for is to do the sampling. And then once we have the samples, then we can go for money to do the modeling piece after that. I'm not sure when I think we're going to hear about that at the beginning of the summer too. And we'll see.
And I asked because Meg's here with MCOG, and there's the other study that's happening at the river, I can't pronounce.
Medonic.
Huh?
The Medonic.
Medonic. So that's happening already.
Yeah, that's
So-
almost finished.
This is different, but will be good information
Yeah,
for the big picture.
very good for the big picture. And it's a much larger area, I think, that we're looking at compared to the Medonic. And we're still going to have a baseline, even though we already have aquaculture. I believe in the Medonic, they did not at that piece.
Right.
But it's pretty much patterned around the same information.
So that fits with what the aquaculture working group is doing
Right.
because there's been pressure for towns to do moratoriums, which I keep saying is nuts because it's state water and state regulation. So let's be constructive. So I think this working group has been incredible. So we're mapping all of Harpswell, high-value fishing areas, and including aquaculture, and pointing out places that look good for aquaculture, so that it's not, the effort isn't to ban aquaculture, it's to have everybody work. Can't we all just get along? So everybody work together. So
And I'm not sure, Jay, if everybody on the committee knows about what you guys are doing.
well, we've talked about it some, but the working group, Chris is part of it too. The working group started late spring after 2 select board workshops around this push for a moratorium. And as I said, in my opinion, moratoriums are worthless because towns don't regulate. But what we came up with was, let's get all the information we can out there so that somebody looking to apply has all the information we can provide. They can still apply for a lease because it's state, but they'll have good information about town waters, where are good places, so that, a good example to me was somebody who's a kelp farmer has a site. They don't work year-round. If they could pull their stuff out, it then allows other fisheries better access. But because their application didn't include pulling it out, they would have to go through the whole process again at time and money. So if you had that conversation before you applied and included it in your lease, save time and money. So that was an example that I
Interesting,
think
yeah.
a real cooperation between the fisheries is possible and doable.
One of the other reasons that it's so important is that when we on the Harbor Waterfront Committee do these aquaculture requests with the harbor master,
Yeah.
whose only job is to review it and then advise the state that yes or no. He can't approve anything.
Right.
And the question comes in on the application, have you observed any commercial activities or fishing activities in that area? The answer is almost always no.
Yeah.
And we didn't know where anybody, that's an overlay that you standing.
Right.
And it's because the people can't be out there 24/7 watching the water spot where they want to piece, see if anybody comes along with a dragger or set lobster traps or do whatever.
Yeah.
Bogey boats come in, take everything. It's a tremendous job as you. Fantastic thing.
Yeah, they've done a grand. Fantastic
it's
job.
going to make a big difference if we have to look at different applications. Other guys that are the fishermen on the committee know who fishes in some spots, but they don't know where everybody fishes.
Right. And the maps also are, will or do include moorings, recreational. So it's a GIS.
Later,
Darcy
yeah.
Kuchar is able to do that. So she's the one who's done all this. And so you have overlays. Well, that was
Survey.
that's a concern that it's self-report. But it's not, it's not in law, it's advice. So when they come to the way Harpswell does it, the potential applicant, particularly for LPAs, the limited purpose aquaculture, the harbor master has to sign off on navigation. For the licenses and leases standard and experimental, there's input, but it's always up to the state. But the more input we give the state, the better decision. And we had Amanda Ellis is the head of the aquaculture program for the state. She came and met with us. And she not only talked, she listened. Great. And she made the point multiple times about there's a time frame when you make comments, use it. You can't, if you go in after the time frame and say, we've got a problem, it's too late, so.
Along with the kelp issue, we talked about it a couple different. Harbor master and some of the fishermen have suggested that it is moving. Keep one way or the other.
Yeah.
Still use that area. Wasn't ledge or something else that was in the way. And for the most part, the applicants have come to the meetings and they work with us and change. And that forestalls an awful lot of conflict later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to your point, Tim, the way they got the data was the lobstermen came to the meeting and mapped out where they fished. And the
Not just
same thing,
lobstermen, but clammers.
and the clammers.
Kobe,
Well,
everybody.
all of them did,
Yeah.
yeah.
You had 3 meetings, different parts of town, and then a 4th meeting in the evening where a lot of people came.
Yeah, so
including
they had the
some
map, and they just marked it up with magic markers, and, we fish here, and we drag there, and,
But all the overlays on the map, you just obliterate the town. Can't see anything except where somebody's fishing.
It's really pretty.
pretty
It would be a
impressive,
big
actually.
jigsaw puzzle.
yeah.
Jay, is there a way to export the process to other towns that might benefit from doing that so that they don't have to invent their
Well-
own process?
Good question. Several towns have come to ask about it because they've heard about it. One of the legislators, the senator from the Demer-Scotta area, had put in a bill about the new office, main office of the MOCA, M-O-C.
Yes, community
Community-
engage,
Yeah.
right, engagement with an A.
Yeah, has asked if they would create, do technical assistance, create a template. Some of the argument about the bill was there's no template. Because there's like the roads, everybody's different. But Darcy suggested not a template, but to be an advisor on resources. So I don't know if that'll pass.
Or is there a network of small towns on the coast of Maine who have a person who goes out and talks with a person over there, or within the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association or something like
I
that?
think
Harbor Masters Association is
MCOG.
Or
is-
MCOG.
That's what my MCOG
Or
does,
Harbor
yeah.
Masters Association?
MCOG is mid-coast, but the word is spreading, and DMR is, Amanda thought first they could put it on their website, and they can't. They have a map, but it's not as specific.
Yeah, it's,
So, but they, as long as Amanda's there, I have faith that she will steer people.
it just seems that it's so locally sourced, and therefore it's probably very accurate because you know that the people out on the boats know where they are. And it's a local community commitment to furthering the process of marine cultivation or marine harvesting in a way that is so nice.
Well, but
It's
you
so
have to-
Jay.
You have to recognize that there's tension.
There's
course there
tensions.
is.
Yeah.
So it was stressed over and over that we're talking about current use, not historical use. So marking off, mark off where you fish now. And that's what people did. So I think it was a very constructive, collaborative, collegial process. And some of the, one of the harvesters has a lease. Lobstermen, some lobstermen, not a lot in Harpswell, but in the world, in the area in Maine are full.
Cool.
They're going into aquaculture because fisheries changing. So I think it's a real step toward collegiate.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it is too.
I want you to go spread the good word.
I think it's spreading already, actually.
Yeah, Deer Isle has asked for information.
Yeah.
This public hearing about the bill that's out there. So, getting there. But I'm very proud of it.
I think you should be.
Really
You
good.
should be. And you had the legislature piece that you could bring to the committee, which was really good.
Yeah, we did ask for a legislative, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trouble. We did
She
ask
set the alarm.
for a legislative piece of, we discovered when Amanda was here that experimental leases don't have a pre-application process, which is an opportunity to talk to the town. And standard leases do, LPAs don't. But we asked, couldn't experimental leases also have that? And that's a change that's been requested through rule as opposed to a law. So it was positive. I talked to the Aquaculture Advisory Committee. The chair was very interested because it would, just for all the reasons we said. Somebody else spoke up and said this would really help. One person said, no more regulations. But then Amanda pointed out it's only the pre-application, it's not scoping, it's not the other pieces that go with the standard lease. So hopefully that'll be a rule change that gives more opportunity for just what most.
Good. Yes, sure.
So